We could measure that on the bad pine cone, which has been injured, probably infected, and with the other one that is right here. And accumulate that on a human body would be their strongest point and their weakest point for their muscle dystrophy. The only thing that censors the four forces is the time, and that's why it's the great divider, because it can have equal parts per any unit and come out with accurate measurements. It's just we can't never view something that someone else views. And the skeleton key runs on the path of the least resistance for anything. And that's why values are induced in such a way. So if you collapse a grid and put it into an envelope, that could be a really great way of making people think that they have different constructs to abide for other than the four forces. And that's the secret skeleton key of the four keys. The following clips are very abstract, but in more simple layman's term, it's the sensors. The four forces are a sensor where it can't be overridden because no one controls nature. But if you're into like paganism and Wicca, which a lot aren't, so I don't know why I'm addressing them, that's the key component, the key and the key and the key. And there's four keys, and it's called four forces of nature. But back to overriding, there's a program, and it is like doesn't need to be written correctly if there's enough influence in it, in-game activity. It'll pretty much write itself. So just if by bypassing like a Neuralink, what some scientists would like to put in a neural chip inside your brain, instead of doing that, if you enact like chemicals to make yourself conduct enough for an outside electrical force to be inerted, and then that inerted will actually go forth with an inertia. So if you have an inertia, not only is that a catch-22, but that would also be a program that has enough influence that it doesn't need to be actually completed for it to be functional. And as troubling as something not being there, but it actually enacting everything that constitute its makeup, it is a literal representation, and it is very plentiful, especially since in the early universe it was constructed through the steps that are very defined, and the four forces collaborate to manifold a single brain, which is called the forces of nature. But nonetheless, they have the thresholds that are already coded, so anything breaking above or below the plane is by default overwritten and constrained. Like for example, in business, there's like a just-on-time delivery system, and that's what most everyone goes off of. But in like a complex modern society, if there's things missing, like caps on bottles, and then the shipping price will get jacked up because you have to wait for it. And so that is a program that is being written the wrong way, but nonetheless it's being written off of deconstructed activity. And so the influences are being more and more built up in a negative aspect, but still that's a bulk of data, enough for it to be overwriting and completing at the same time. So if there's a program that has been written and you don't know that you're playing a game, well, the name of the game would be not to be overwritten. And this can be done even without losing the game, just because you don't know you're playing it. So that's like a hard ball and a curveball at the same time. If you're left-handed, you throw a hard ball and curveball naturally at the same time. If you have a minimum humanitarian health standard, what would that encompass? And a gauge of how long you have to be somewhere if you're taken there. If that's not specified, then the first thing can be used against you at the same time. It's just like a point of insertion is almost the same as the point of articulation. If what you're inserting makes your body move a certain way, they're both the same. And an atonement is finding both. If it's mental and physical, you have the ability to do both because you're made of electrodynamics, electrochemical system, and your material with the muscles being made up of protein. I think liquid can be elongated, and this is what happens with snake venom. It's elongated and it's extracted to be anti-venom. This is how it's elongated to do something different. Just like a two-tone, there's two colors in it, but depending how you elongate your viewpoint, you're bouncing photons off your eye onto a two-tone like object. And if you elongate your photon streaming out of your eyes, then it will change color. So it's just like the elongated liquid, but with a paint of coat, and that paint of coat was liquid, so it was also an elongated liquid. And how the blood flows through it, it would be how great the cardiovascular is. That's what we'd be testing for. And so with a messaging system, it's important to know that the informer isn't always the inferior to the superior person who sent them to be an informer. That's like a secretary if you're on the phone with customer support. But then someone said, don't kill the messenger, but harass him. That'd be a base plate for a sound support in a two-tone system where color is like two tones, and that's both of them. Who invented two tones? So having a sound support for a stable structure is important. And so what you saw in that box, you could put anything. If it were sound, the box would need to be bigger if you want to upload more noise to it and have it reverberate to a different distance. Like a dish, the same size of it, it could go back and forth like a teeter-totter, but with the sound waves, it would be propagating off of the dish, so it would have to be the size of your body to feel all its vibrations. So the environment of what Soldier Boy got was Atari, and so the embodiment of all the video games, meaning all the sounds in them, he owns all of those. So he has instrumentals for each video game and a whole list of the soundtrack inside of the video game as well. And what's a good look? It's gaining a profit, and you can get a lot off of a single environment if you have a singular body, which is like anything you do can be worked towards a body. And so the conformity of freedom is for you to have as many outlets for an open source. That's the simplest QR code I've ever seen, and it's actually 2-for-1 because it's the game Foursquare. But then if you just go up and look at this one, it's also the game Foursquare. Their specific program is decode here because they get to see who views them, and their administrator because they get to go through walls. Just as the person who made the song in the background can decohere this video's audio and charge me with copyright infringement, and that's okay, but I'm trying to speak loud enough so they can't interfere, so I'm trying to like put a firewall up in their program, just how ghosts put a firewall up on who gets to see them, because they pick the decoherence, and whoever is falling in that frequency is part of their game in the simulated program. Unfortunately, it is all around the person who's viewing them. I'm not saying it's right to view life as a computer, but to know the advancement of what coding is, This is what bugs go off of on your computer or in real life. They look at a hit. I don't care for a throwaway. I'll get back for free. Need no rebate. So I was explaining before, the isolated or non-isolated vessel. This could be explained as like a piece of foam where the stuff that is caught in the foam, you see it has like a gravity field, and so the ring above it could be a gravitational lens, and so this is indirectly affecting gravitational fields. But if you're in front of the lensing on top of the ring, you would see that these are ordered, and it would look like they're on top of the ring inside of the line, as opposed to in separate milk carton gravity fields.